What's up guys, FSC Speed Shop. This right here behind me, as we saw in the last video, is my 1989 Sea Ray 268 Sundancer. If you're watching it on this channel, you know I didn't just buy it and then put it right to use. You know, with a boat that is currently named Some Assembly Required, it just doesn't need anything else to be said. There's work that needs to be done. Now understand, I bought this boat knowing it had problems, and that's what we do. We try to buy things cheap, fix them up a little bit, use them, and then go ahead and play with them. This is a long-term investment for me and my family. We're gonna go ahead and get that fixed up. The last video we showed you what it was and what's in it and so forth. Now, in this video, we're gonna start the repair process of it. Now, this is the last year of the 89 268 Sundancer. The following year, 1990, the boats look completely different. To me, they have more of that melted, more formed look without the traditional straight lines of this boat here. Not saying there's anything wrong with those boats, I just prefer the older traditional looking boats. This boat has the 8'6" wide beam. It is the max width that I could tow it for cross-country use, so I could take it to Florida, take it to the Jersey Shore, heck, even maybe make it to the West Coast. That's why we have 3/4 ton trucks on the channel. That's why my son has that big Dodge Ram with the V10. I also have a 1-ton Chevy 3500 crew cab that will also come onto this channel eventually in time. I just have to clear out other projects. With that, this project right here really isn't much of a project, but it has a cracked exhaust manifold. It overheats at an idle. If you know anything about Mercruiser engines, basically they're inboard outboards. The engine's inside, stern drive's on the outside. Inside is basically a car engine modified for marine applications. No, a car engine and a marine engine are not the same. Even though this is a 454, it is not exactly the same as what's in your 454 in your Chevy truck or your big block Chevelle. The internals are, for the most part, very much the same. You have different pistons, you have a different RPM range basically, meaning your cam is wildly different. Think about it, you're not going to put your car in gear and drive and keep it at 3,500 RPM for a few hours. Engines internally are built differently. The blocks, they are identical. With that, they overheat. Why? Well, cars have air that goes through the radiator and blows past your exhaust system, not in a boat. The exhaust system has to be water cooled as well, and when they crack, that causes water intrusion problems. When you have water intrusion problems, if you leave it that way long enough, your engine block will look like it's full of mayonnaise. That's what we have. We're going to go ahead and start that job. We are going to go ahead and solve this boat's problems. With that, let's go ahead and jump on board and get started. Let me ahead and open the engine cover, show you what we got. Right there is your 454. Now what he talked about was something leaking right around here. When I had it running, I didn't see any of that. What I did see was this right here. Just staring you right in the face. It's a crack right here. And all the water staining. Now for the guys that don't do boats, that are new to the channel, or if you watch the channel for a while, these manifolds are water cooled. So they put water in and surrounds the actual exhaust gas port that comes out. But if this were to crack on the inside, it'll spill the water into the engine and into the cylinders. Another thing we could do is you could pull the plug, see what comes out of them water wise, and see check the compression on them, see if we have any valve train problems. The same as on the starboard side here, or right side. See a little bit of water staining coming down off that riser, but I don't see any cracking or any obvious issues. Doesn't mean that there isn't, it just means that I don't see it. We'll pull a dipstick out here. As you see, right there, that's the level where it starts to get oil and water mix, that yucky crap. So I'll show you this. Right here where my thumb is where the level is. Wipe it off. Right there is the fill line. Back it up. So that's how much overfill the engine is. That's got to be all the way up against the intake manifold. So the first thing we got to do is get that gunk out of there. We'll set this aside. I just sent Matt over to the store and he bought me a nice little suction tool. Check this out. I sent Matt over to Northern Tool to buy this here. What this does is obviously you can't get underneath the oil pan to pull a drain plug, and obviously you're not supposed to just drain it in the bilge right out the ground. Although I could probably rig up a funnel and a hose, that's not a good idea. So what they do is they put these dipstick tubes down low into the oil pan and you suck the oil out that way. Now what I remember on my dad's OMC 130 was we put the hose directly on the oil dipstick tube, but there's a check valve here. So you have to send this tube down. Look at the water just pop right out there. Kind of to the bottom, raise up a little bit. What you do is you attach this hose to here, close this valve, and for large engines you have to give this pump 50 pumps that puts vacuum in the tank. That vacuum is what will pull the oil out of the engine. So in a strange turn of events, what I did is that Mighty Vac wasn't pulling any oil out of it. It was like thick sludge, wasn't working. I was thinking about draining the oil. I looked through the scuttle plug, I saw the drain plug, but I saw a hose coming off the front of the oil pan, a thick one. Like, what in the world is that? So I crawled inside. Sure enough, it's got an oil cooler. Obviously I got it running now. I was trying to thin out the oil to suck it out. The oil cooler's leaking. That oil cooler is direct injecting that water right into the oil pan. Now, that exhaust manifold is cracked and the leak is minimal. With that being said, the oil cooler leak, yeah, that's big. Get and fire it, Matt. We opted to take the drain plug out and let it drip down the bilge. We'll put a drain plug. It's too small for me. So we'll let Matt do it.
It burns.
Don't turn it the wrong way. Remember which way to turn it?
Which one is this? Which one is this?
Your side.
I need 9/16.
Your side. What?
9/16.
Really? That small?
Yeah.
It's going to be opposite of tightening. So it's going to be, put it to your side, turn it this way. This way. Okay?
Yeah.
Cannot afford you to strip that.
Away.
This way. Turn it to me. Yeah. See how I'm doing it?
Okay. Oh. Can you? Sounds dumb. Just tell me why I can do it.
What?
I'm going to need to. Eek. I need you to go get tape or something. I need to tape this around my arm so I can have this, because I need to pull on it, but I can't.
You want a socket and a breaker bar maybe?
I need this, but I need this taped on my arm so it doesn't slide.
So we got the drain plug out, just dumping it right into the bilge. That's what's coming out. The brown you see is only from the oil that already was in the pan. But that white creamy crap is what's coming out of that engine. Now the basic plan is to send Matthew to go get a tube so we can bypass the water line going through the cooler. We're gonna run it on the muffs with the power steering disconnected and without an oil cooler. We'll just take that line that goes through the oil cooler, hook it right to the housing on the side of the block, and we'll idle it sitting here with fresh oil. Now, the oil cooler itself came out in 2 pieces. As you can see, the oil dripping out of it. The other part's right here. It also does the power steering pump, or power steering fluid, I should say.
Oh no, did I blend it?
No, it's garbage anyway.
Oh, you're right.
These 2 pieces go together. And it goes together like this. And that's what froze right there. If any of those little tubes cracked, that'll put water right into the oil. Alright, cut it. What's up, guys? It's the next day. We're gonna go ahead and make the attempt now to start figuring out how to pressure test this engine block. Crawl up in there. It's like a week since I made the last video. Maybe a little bit longer. I had to take the semi out on the road. I already opened up the boat, as you can see. Just threw the cover over the front. I already opened up the engine cover. Kind of funny working at an angle now. Now the basic idea is pull the batteries. I did run it with the fresh oil, but she's still overheated. So what we're gonna do, pull the batteries. I'm gonna start yanking these exhaust manifolds off as well. Like I said, then I'm gonna figure out how to block off the plumbing and pressure test. I'll tell you guys what, I've worked on some difficult vehicles before. This takes the cake, because like you gotta dive in. The whole engine is under the floor. I'm sitting on the floor. So yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. I'm gonna do my best to film for you. I don't know how much of this you're actually gonna get. Now these are these giant ass water cooled exhaust manifolds. This right here is just a relocated oil filter because you're never gonna get down there simple. So the exhaust comes up through here on the inside. There's a water cooled jacket surrounding it which froze and cracked. Your riser, and this is where the water and exhaust meet, right in this boot. Yeah, it's cooled off enough so rubber can handle your exhaust and goes down and out your stern drive and prop. So that's basically how it works. My idea is simple. I got to take this exhaust manifold off, and a lot of stuff is bolted to it. So let's just go ahead and get started. Unbolting, unscrewing, and taking all the stuff off. This elbow's garbage anyway. I think maybe I have to take the elbow and the tube together because the tube overlaps part of the elbow. So we'll give her a couple whacks, break it loose, and we'll take it all out as one unit, I suppose. All right, it's loose from the manifold now. Ready, Matt?
Ready for it.
They hand you the elbow and the tubes.
Okay. You got it. Oh.
That apparently is the answer.
What?
How I took it off.
What is that little flap thing in the exhaust?
What that is when you put the boat in the water, water tries to rush up or backwards. So it'll hit the big side and close. I'll flap it once. That way it closes the valve. It's a flow valve basically. If the exhaust and water goes this way, it'll stay open. If it tries to backflow, like if you're putting it in on the boat ramp, it won't backflow up and fill your exhaust. Now this is where your exhaust would come out, and here is your water inlets. That's how it cools your that's how it cools your manifolds. It's just a thin gasket. This will all be replaced with the new kit. See the corrosion right here? Zoom in. See this corrosion? This is the stuff that causes flow problems and the stuff that creates overheating problems. Now granted, you got the holes for the gasket, so I'm not sure how much damage any of that would have done, but there is a actual gasket material there too, I suppose. Like I said, this is one of the hardest engines I've ever worked on. Imagine, there's some water there. Imagine if this was a twin V6 268. I don't know how you work on that. I think everything you do is an engine out, because I don't think you can get to anything. Well, still a good amount of water in the manifold. Like I said, I imagine from here down would be full of water. He's heavy. I wake up, flex, I'm down that check. No drip, this wet. Run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell him run it up. I wake up, flex, thumb down that check. No drip, this wet. Tell him run it up. No sleep, no rest. Might crash, might wreck. But first I stretch. Tell him run it up. 9 out of 10 roll through my hands, I'm by my lonely. Turned to a savage, now my baby wants to hold me.